Hey everybody! In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about Unit 2 matter, and we're really going to get into Chapter 11. Chapter 11 really focuses on elements and some of their properties, and as we know from some of the previous chapters, we can find the elements on the periodic table. So I'm gonna navigate away from this notes screen, and I'm going to call up a periodic table to discuss each and every one of these parts of the periodic. And notice here, the periodic table of elements that I pulled up is just kind of plain. I did that on purpose. In some of my previous episodes and some of my future episodes, I use the web elements version, which is totally interactive. You can click on things, you can go to things. But in this case, I pulled up this one because I just want it to be plain, and I don't want to be confused by all the different colors and sections and things like that. The first and maybe most important thing on a periodic table that I want to point out to you is this stair step. From here, from between boron and aluminum, all the way down between polonium and astatine, this stair step divides the periodic table. I don't want to say in half because it's not actually in half, but it divides it into two areas. The first area is the largest area, and to the left of the periodic table here, all of these elements are metals. And metals are similar to each other. They're kind of like they're a class of elements all kind of by themselves. Metals are shiny, they're good conductors, meaning they conduct both heat and electricity. They're malleable, which means you can pound them into sheets. There's something called ductile, which means you can pull them, when you heat them up, you can pull metals into wires. This is how they make copper wire for houses. And so metals all share similar properties, and we represent that they share these similar properties because by putting them on the same side of this stair step. I have to be careful how I say that. Okay, it's not that they're on the same side of the periodic table so they share properties. We put them on the same side of the table because they share properties. Up here, above the stair step, is the nonmetal area. This region of the periodic table is smaller. I think there's only 17 or 20 some odd elements over here. Okay, but these are called the nonmetals. And whatever a metal is, in terms of properties, nonmetals are the opposite. If a metal is something that conducts heat and electricity, a nonmetal is something that doesn't. It is an insulator. It insulates from heat and electricity. If a metal is shiny, a nonmetal has no luster. Okay? And a lot of the nonmetals are also not solids. They're also, a lot of them are gases or liquids. So, for example, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, these are all not solids. Hydrogen, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon are all not solids. These are gases. And so it's kind of interesting to think that the periodic table kind of is naturally split to have the nonmetals on one side and the metals on the other. This last column requires a little bit of special attention because these are what we call the noble gases. Noble meaning that they don't really want to interact with things. And so that's what the noble gases do. It takes a whole lot of energy that we really don't want to use to make the noble gases do stuff. So they, in essence, don't react with a lot of things. Nonmetals and metals can react with a lot of things. Noble gases don't. So, but we still count them as nonmetals. Now, here's the funny part. So if we have metals over here and nonmetals up here, then we have these things that touch the stair step. They're kind of the border, no man's land between the metals and the nonmetals. And this is where we have things called metalloids. Metalloids are kind of metallic, kind of not. Okay, so if a metal conducts electricity really well, a nonmetal doesn't conduct electricity at all, a metalloid is going to be kind of in the middle of conducting electricity. That's why a lot of our computer chips are silicone, because they conduct electricity just enough to make sure that the whole computer chip isn't conducting electricity, just the parts that we want. So it's kind of interesting to think about the layout of the periodic table. But that's kind of the point of this chapter, is to show you the periodic table, to see that the elements that we've talked about in previous videos all have unique properties. They're all made of atoms, and they're kind of divided on the periodic table in unique little areas. So that's about periodic table, and that's going to be just about all we have in terms of properties of elements. Yep. Have a great day.